Welcome to Ontopicretro, episode 16. I'm John Cummins. Joining me tonight is Dan Caporello
Hello.
and Will Schulz again.
Hi, me again.
It's like back-to-back episodes for both of you guys almost.
Will is kind of your unofficial co-host at this point. He's done, like 3 now?
4, I think.
Yeah,
I think
something
this
like
will be
that.
like 4th show.
You guys are
Something like that.
You guys are 2 peas in a pod on this thing.
I think we just have like some similar taste in weird video games. So
Yeah.
it works. Especially RPGs.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Playing
I'm good.
Pokemon?
Yeah.
Or
I
get
feel
hyped
positively about the Pokemon.
Yes.
Hyped
Yes,
for new
yes.
Pokemon yet?
I'm as
Pretty
hyped as
much.
I'm going to be.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped for it. They're like, I feel like every time they show a trailer, there's like 4 or 5 things where I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. And then 1 or 2 things where I'm like, why am I making sandwiches? I'm never going to do that. Why would you put that in the game? And then they'll show a Pokemon that looks like a white wormy Diglett. And I'm like, I'm not into it. I don't want it.
Yeah, it seems like with the last at least 2 or 3 generations of Pokemon, I don't even watch any of the pre-release stuff, and I just go into them and play them like I do every Pokemon game, and just ignore all the new stuff that they throw in there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I want to be hype. Like, I'm hype about Pokemon in general.
Well, I mean, I just have the full understanding that Pokemon is not trying to speak to me any longer. Like, my kids are going to totally love it, but I'm just
It knows you're going to
like
be there regardless. It doesn't have to win you.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Totally.
Well, I mean, for as much as people complain about like some of the things, it's like the core of the game hasn't ever changed. And the first game is my favorite one, obviously. It's the one that I have the most experience with. And knowing that I can just hop in and pretty much play any of the newer ones the exact same way if I feel like it, yeah, it works for me.
That's true. That's a good point.
You got to find that silver lining in the Pokemon universe. There's a lot of weird stuff out there for Pokemon nowadays.
Yes.
Like you said, we have a Wiglet that should never exist.
And it's weird. Like, I very recently even was getting kind of caught up in like how Pokemon has changed over the years and how it's kind of like annoying now. And then I kind of landed and I'm like, you know what? It's fine though. I can still have fun here. There's lots of fun to be had. Pokemon Go is still super fun. Building decks in the Pokemon trading card game is fun. Like, there's lots of fun to be had. So I don't have to complain about it. I can just have fun. And that's where I'm landing.
Play the old games.
I do that too. I'm in the middle of my 3rd playthrough of Sapphire right now.
Nice.
There you go. It's one that I've never owned, and I still don't. I don't own any of the games from that generation. I never have.
Now, I started Pokemon when you did with Red Blue, and I think the Game Boy Advance generations are my favorite. Red Blue and or Fire Red Leaf Green, which is just like a better version of Red Blue, and then Ruby Sapphire, which is my other favorite generation. Now, I haven't played all the generations. Never played Gold Silver, never played Black White. And I played a little bit of, what was the Hawaiian Alolan one?
Sun Moon?
Yeah, I played a little bit of that, couldn't get into it. And I'll have to go back to it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I love Gen 2. Gold Silver is my favorite.
Yeah.
I need to play it
so far.
Like, it's a gap for me.
Gen 2 felt like it added all the things that were like necessary to add, like to make it better.
Yeah, it added a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And then I fell off after Diamond Pearl. I fell off, didn't really pick back up until Sun and Moon, because my kid started to have an interest in it. So like, yeah, sure, I'll play one of these. Yeah. I think I looked on my 3DS the other day. I do own Pokemon X, and I don't remember anything about it. I have a save file. I didn't finish it, but it's there, and I don't fully understand why or how.
I also
got used?
I have why, and I don't.
No, it's not. It's mine.
Huh.
Yeah, so somebody
I just don't remember buying it at all.
Played X on your 3DS and left.
Yeah.
Bought it digitally, left it on there.
I've been
So, yeah,
rebuying a bunch of Pokemon games recently.
I'm sorry.
When I can.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that's
know.
a bad
And you
idea.
know what? I'm not gonna bother with Heart Gold, Soul Silver, despite everyone telling me how amazing it is. I'm just like, I have Silver on the Game Boy, and I'm just gonna be okay with that. Um, and I didn't pay crazy amounts for anything. I got one from our community member Zach, who always sells stuff
Oh
below
yeah,
price charting for free shipping, and he had a loose copy of White, and I was like, yeah, I think he
White's.
sold it to me for 50 maybe, and I was like, that's fine, I'll pay that.
Yeah, if you ever want to play Soul Silver, I'll let you borrow it. I think I even talked about it on Discord, but it's been like at least a year ago or longer. But I took a gamble on Offer Up, if you remember that stupid app.
I've loved Offer Up. It's gone
Took
now.
a gamble on there, and somebody had posted a copy of Soul Silver and Black and some other game. I can't remember what it was now, for like $50.
I remember
And
that.
like he didn't know what he had, and I was like, these could maybe not be legitimate, but we'll just for $50 we'll just figure it out. So they get
Yeah.
here and I checked them and they are legitimate.
Hmm.
So I got $200 games and some random
Very
game for
nice.
$50. So every once in a while you find a deal on those places, but yeah. So Dan, why don't you go ahead and start in with your experiences for Gen 1 Pokemon, which is what we will be talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
Gen 1 Pokemon is where it all started for me. I remember the Nintendo Power episode where they started talking about it, and I was like, oh, this sounds freaking awesome. I guess it was like 97, 96 maybe, when they started talking about it, because it had launched in Japan already. Um, and we were just kind of I was just kind of waiting around for any news about this game or the cartoon or the cards or anything, because they also had like an issue that had a card in it, and I'm not sure if that was pre or post launch of the card game, but I remember that too. And yeah, it was
I don't.
just it hit me at the perfect age. I was 11, and I had a bunch of friends who played video games with me, and we were all getting into Pokemon. Like, it was perfect. Um, and yeah, obviously, like, it came out and I was obsessed, and that's all me and my friends ever wanted to do was talk about or play cards or talk about the anime, or that's all I did. Like, I would run home after school every day to try to catch the new Pokemon episode, because it came on right at 3, and I got out of school at like 2:45, so it was always like a mad dash to
If
make
you
it.
rode the
And
bus, that's
I
sometimes.
recorded. Right, yeah. I lived pretty close to my school, so I just walked. But I recorded a bunch of episodes on a VHS tape to like watch later. And I just was obsessed with it. That's like it was my thing. It was what I wanted to do. Gen 1 went super hard, and then I guess it was 2 or 3 years later when Gold Silver came out, and I just dropped off. Stopped playing the cards, didn't buy Gold or Silver, was just started doing other things. Um so and then I came back for Ruby Sapphire, and the rest is history. But I don't know why, like, it just kind of just left the zeitgeist for me. Just
Bounced off, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And yeah, to this day, I still haven't played Gold Silver. But hopefully that's going to change soon, because I'm burning through a bunch of Pokemon games right now. And I think that it was just it was weirdly relatable as an 11-year-old. Like, your main character isn't some grown-up RPG guy or a plumber or a fox. It was you. It was a kid who got to go on adventures without any sort of like oversight, and you got to make friends with monsters and catch them, and you got to fight, and you got to like ride your bike, and it kind of was like a bit of like your like baby's first open world RPG game. Because at some point in the game, like the world opens up and now you can go anywhere, and you have to just kind of figure out where to go, and you could choose where to go to catch what you want. And so there was a lot of agency in the game. There's a lot of freedom in the game, and the character was a 10-year-old boy. So like I grabbed that, like that was me in that game. I named him Dan.
Makes sense.
So I think that's why it hit me so hard at that time, at like the perfect age. And yeah, so that's kind of where it started for me. And then, Fire Red Leaf Green. After Ruby Sapphire, me and my friends got back into it, played Fire Red Leaf Green. Didn't play the Eevee Pikachu Go games on the Switch. I don't know. They didn't appeal to me at the time. But that's kind of just my experience where I started with it. I wouldn't call myself like an expert. Like there's people who know like way more about the ins and outs of this game than I do, but I'm a super fan of Gen 1 Pokemon for sure.
Speaking of like naming your character, I always thought it was funny, like whenever you start up the game, they give you a choice of 3 names, like just pre-made names. And one of them was always my name, so I just always went with it. And then one of them was always the color of the game you were playing.
Yeah.
You can name your character as that. And then there's always one more name. And I don't think it was Ash. Like, I don't think Ash was a part of the game until the animated series.
Was it not? Because the animated series was in Japan already. Well, I thought Ash was a choice.
It might have been.
Maybe. For some reason, I don't think it was.
Should I boot it up?
I'm going to boot it up. Your save file. Yeah,
I'm not going to save over it.
While we're, yeah.
Hang on, I'll be right back.
I mean, you can do that while Will's doing his experiences.
Yeah, okay, I'll just take my turn. Yeah, I was not necessarily in on the ground floor with Pokemon. I did get caught up pretty quickly in the phenomenon that it was at the time. I didn't have a Game Boy when it came out. I got a Game Boy to play Pokemon. I was one of the sad, confused children that had a Game Gear.
Oh man!
Yeah, at least you didn't have Atari Lynx. I mean,
yeah, it could have been worse. That's true. But Pokemon set me on the right, proper handheld path, and I mean, it was also probably the first RPG that I really thoroughly enjoyed and understood what I was doing. And really felt like I was like, yeah, no, I understand what's happening here, and this is a game that's more complex than just go to the right, please.
It was definitely my first RPG too, and it definitely got me into it.
Yeah. I spent a ton of time on this game, Red and Blue. I played Red. My sister played Blue. My sister being like 5 years younger than me, did not really.
So you
didn't really benefit a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Didn't really.
Here so we can trade.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, you guys are right. At least in Blue and Red, the names are Blue, Gary, and John for your name, which is weird that you
Gary in the animated series.
Gary's the other one,
and then Gary has the name Ash as an option.
Okay, so it's just backwards.
Your rival has the name Ash. Now, that is bizarro to me. Why did they do that?
I find that harder to believe than it not being there at all.
Yeah. I remember it being like, starting it up, it's like, man, this game knows what my name is. It's already in. I could just select it.
That must have been pretty cool as a kid.
It was.
Like, oh, John.
Oh, easy done. Absolutely. Let's see. Yeah. Played a lot of Gen 1. Yellow is the only game where I've caught them all. That's it. I've always kind of lost interest and petered out and moved on to other things.
Yeah.
And now I just laugh at the very concept just because of just how many there are.
57 of them.
Oh yeah,
Like,
there's
yeah,
going to be
nah.
over 1,000.
Right. Yeah, it's like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I'll just mess with the new ones. Thank you. I'll try those out.
I mean,
I really like this one.
don't
I
you
like
kind of
Gold.
wish that you had caught all of them and just like transferred them over to the next one? Because there's people that have done that.
Sometimes, yeah, there are people that have done that for sure. Yeah.
It makes your work
Um,
easier.
it would, but in a way, I'm also glad I didn't do that, because then it just kind of became this unattainable thing from the word go, and it's like, yeah, okay, I don't want to mess with that. Instead of coming in and be like, all right, half of the work is done. All I have to do to get these Pokemon from yellow to gold is catch like 130 Pidgeys and just
And just
trade them back to trade for 3 hours. But no, I kind of lost my place. I really like
Right.
Gen 1. I got all about it. I had a ton of cards until a kid took them and destroyed them, and then I took a break from that.
That will do it.
Yeah, that did it. I had a pretty nice binder, and that did it. I didn't really start messing with them again until my son started messing with them, and now we'll grab a pack each. Sometimes we'll just take them home and open them, and it's pretty cool. And he is super into it now. With Sword and Shield, he is like, he knows what he's doing now. So now we're playing them together. Really looking forward to Scarlet and Violet for that one. That is going to be the first. We each have a different version of the game. We're starting it at the same time, and that is rad. I am super excited about that.
It's awesome. Well, so Dan, were you a red or a blue kid?
I had I think I had blue.
Okay.
So
I had blue, and I had blue because my cousin lived next door to me, and we were like really close, and we always played games together. And we had this buddy, it was like a friend. It was like our parents' kid, so our parents' friend's kid. So he was always there too. Well, he got it first.
Hold on,
So
sorry, I have to stop you. There's been a what do you call it? I have news.
In
developments.
Okay, and this makes total sense now. Has any of you played Black and White?
No.
Have you played Black and White? No. Okay. Apparently, in Black and White, there are characters in that game named Red and one character named Blue. In Pokemon Blue, which I have, the protagonist has the name option of Gary. In Pokemon Red, which I just watched a long play of on YouTube, has the protagonist name Ash, and the antagonist is Gary.
Oh, so
depending on what version you have, in Red you can be Ash, in Blue you can be Gary, and that's kind of. And so in Black and White, those characters exist, and so there's like fan theories about whether Red and Blue are actually Ash and Gary. I'm sure a lot of your listeners right now are probably like, "Duh, I didn't know that. I've never played Black or White. I'm just reading this on Wikipedia."
Yeah, Black and White happened when I'd fallen away from the series for a little while.
Yeah,
that's the gen I haven't played that I'm the most interested in.
A lot of people say it's really good. Yep. So
I know, but
it's when they reset everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I'm excited. Like, I want to check them out. But if they keep doing what they're doing, I think they're the next ones to get remixed. So I'm like, maybe I just wait.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry to interrupt you, John. I had to throw that out.
Oh, no, you're fine. So anyway, long story short, I got started because a buddy of mine had bought it, and then I can't even remember I think he might have had Red. So then my cousin bought Red. So then that left me as the only one. So I bought Blue.
Oh, so everybody wanted to trade with you then.
Yeah, so we could have all the Pokemon together. So yes, I had Blue, and man, I played the AA batteries out of Blue. Like, I don't know how many sets I bought probably in that time period, but Blue is the only version where I even came remotely close to collecting them all. I think I had in the 140s collected, and then I was over at a different friend's house, and his sister erased my game. while we
Oh,
were
my
at sleepover.
gosh.
oh,
Yeah, I think we'd been playing like all night, and I passed out, and Game Boy is left out, and his sister was like 3, maybe 4. Picked it up, turned it on, started a game, saved over mine somehow. Bad deal.
That sounds horrible.
terrible deal.
Yeah, it was probably like a year in the making of collecting
Oh
those
man.
Pokemon. Or at least it feels like it. It probably wasn't a year. It's probably like 6
What a
months.
terrible human.
Yes. I still blame her to this day. No.
Yep. I'm mad at her.
A little bit.
And I didn't stop there. I actually pre-ordered Yellow. I remember doing this at Babbage's, and the nearest one was like an hour and a half away, and I remember being like super stoked and like having my parents drive me over to pick it up and everything. And remember like not knowing a whole lot about Yellow, thinking it was a new game, and then playing it, and I was like, man, this is the same game.
But Pikachu follows you.
Yeah, Pikachu surfs now. Like, what the heck? And like, so I played through Yellow. I didn't try to collect all the Pokemon, but just played and enjoyed having your Pokemon follow you around and everything. And that was, I mean, I played the bejesus out of Blue. I don't even know, again, how many hours I put into it, but it was ton. I remember plenty of times where my dad's like, hey, you need to get off. Like
Same.
you've been playing this for like 8 hours straight.
I specifically remember that when I got all the Pokemon, when I hit 150 on Yellow, the game time was over 100 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It wasn't like way over that, but I remember it being over 100.
I believe it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're a kid and you have all this time to pour into
Well,
Pokemon,
yeah.
so yeah, it's easy to put 100 hours in.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, the only limitations you have are your provision of AA batteries that you have available at your house. You're like robbing them out of the TV remote so you can keep playing Pokemon.
I got tethered to outlets pretty quickly.
Yeah, I didn't have a AC, or I guess at that time it had been a DC plug-in.
Well, see, I'd had one for my Genesis for the Game Gear because that takes 6 of the goddamn things.
Oh yeah.
So then I got the Game Boy, and then I started running through batteries, and I was like, "Where is this but for that?" So then they got me the adapter, and then I ended up in a beanbag in the corner, and fine.
Nice.
Yeah, those adapters always had like a 2-foot cord. It seemed like too.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have one until I got my Game Boy Color. But yeah, and that would have been probably around. I think I got my Game Boy Color and Pokemon Yellow like almost the same time. Like I think they released really close. Because I remember as soon as the Game Boy Color came out, I took my OG DMG to the store, traded it in, which I regret now because I don't have my original Game Boy. But I have plenty of them now, but not my one that I had as a kid. I still have my Game Boy Color though.
I think the only other like super specific thing I have is I had a player's guide for Red and Blue. And
the Power one with the stickers in the back?
Yes. Yeah, I do believe that was the one. And I did take it to school because of course I did. And I wish I could remember more about it, but I was in like 3rd grade or something. So we would play this little game, and for whatever reason, I don't remember, but I ended up in the principal's office trying to explain to him what we were doing using this player's guide for Pokemon. And he's just this poor old man, and he doesn't know what I'm doing. He's just trying to decide whether or not he's going to paddle me or not. And eventually he just kind of got frustrated. Like he just kind of gave up, told me to stop, and told me to not bring it back to school again.
Nice.
I remember that part very clearly because I thought I was in trouble, and I was just like running through this whole thing. I was like, no, you don't get it. This isn't inherently bad. It's just don't bring it back.
He's so confused.
Take it home and don't bring it back.
This one?
I think so. I think that is the right one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had one when they released Yellow. They re-released the guide with all the new stuff with Yellow, and it had like, I think it had on the front had Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Pikachu like in a triangle. I think I had both at one point in time. I don't know if I have them any longer.
Look at this sick map right here, though. Look at that.
Oh yeah, no, they had good
nice.
artwork in it.
I love the art. Early Pokemon art is just like, mwah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Just does
And then
it for me.
if you bought the trading card game guide, it came with a Venusaur card in it. It's
Really?
worth a lot of money if you don't open it. Like it came
Dang.
in like a little pouch, like insert inside the guide itself. If you have that guide with the pouch not open with the card inside, I think that guide is worth like $500 or something like that.
Crazy.
I'd probably for
But
the
yes,
3 or 4 that aren't open.
yeah, of course. So yes, we've all experienced Gen 1 Pokemon and the craziness that ensued at that time. Like I mean, I guess we have Japan to thank for that because they had it for quite a bit longer, but like it seemed like when we were getting it, like the anime came out like real quick right after we got it, and the card game, like everything was just already there in place. Like Americans just like ate it up. Like things went crazy. Pokemon was probably like the biggest thing that I can remember like at that time when I was a kid. Like
Absolutely.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were big, like whenever, early childhood, but like there wasn't anything like Pokemon. When that thing hit, like it was like a bomb went off. There was like Pokemon everywhere.
Yep. Yep. I don't even remember what I was into before Pokemon. Like, you're right. Like, yeah, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like maybe like I don't even know. Like, I guess like Donkey Kong was pre Pokemon, but there wasn't a lot to do with Donkey Kong. You could play the game.
And physical evidence exists to suggest that I was into Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers beforehand.
Yes.
Power Rangers is probably the big one in between Ninja Turtles and Pokemon. And then I got out of Pokemon to get into like Dragon Ball and stuff like that. And to this day, I remember selling all my Pokemon cards so that I could buy into the Dragon Ball trading card game because I thought that was going to be really cool.
No.
I was like, no, this is not that good.
That hurts to hear.
I remember that game.
It was so bad.
Oh.
So unbalanced. Like they literally just printed pictures on the cards to sell them.
They did.
The game itself was horrible.
Whoa. I remember looking at this picture right here. I know your listeners can't see this, but it's an image of it. It's a little like not cut out, but like a little paragraph about long Pokemon, and it's Dragonair, Gyarados, and Onix right next to each other. And I was like, whoa, does Onix evolve from Gyarados?
They all evolved from Dragonair.
Like that's so not what happens. I was so confused as a kid.
Oh, but yeah, so definitely don't get into the Dragon Ball trading card game unless there's a new one that. I mean, you learn pretty quick that if your trading card game wasn't made by Wizards of the Coast, that you probably don't need to be playing it.
Oh, you know what? I just realized I forgot to do the power plant in my recent blue playthrough.
Oh, you better go back because that's where you get Zapdos.
Better go back. Where do you get Moltres?
Victory Road, I think.
Or no, is it Victory Road?
I think it's in like a weird dead end in Victory Road.
Okay.
It could be right.
Oh, because there's like a whole cave situation there. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I know you get Articuno in that one cave that's like on the island.
Oh, I got Articuno. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. All right. That's enough about experiences. We need to go ahead and talk about this game.
Okay.
What are we talking about again?
Pokemon Red and Green.
Purple and turquoise.
So to properly talk about this, we're going to start at the beginning with Pocket Monsters Red and Green, which released in February 27th, 1996 in Japan. And then they would also get blue. There was a version of Pocket Monsters that was blue, but it didn't come out until October 15th of 1996. So almost a year later, they decided that, hey, we want a third color game for some reason. And I didn't really do any research on the Japanese games. I don't know what the difference is between the three. Like
I know a lot of the sprites were redone, I
for
think, for
for
Blue.
blue. Okay.
Yeah, and like those are the sprites that they used
For
in
our
the
games.
West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I kind of
Japanese
wondered if
versions don't have colorful cartridges like we have. They just
no,
have.
yeah, they were
Right.
gray
Yeah.
cartridges with colored
Now I
stickers.
will say their
Yeah.
box art is pretty dang
Way better. Yeah,
awesome
it's
with the big
primo.
Yeah.
circle and like the
Yep.
Pokemon in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's all
So
here's all four: green, blue, red, yellow on eBay, complete in box for $214, which seems like a bargain if that was your thing.
Yeah.
for the Japanese games, yeah, they're not near as expensive for
Thank
whatever
God.
reason. But so yeah, they Pokemon released in '96 in Japan, and then we would have to wait like 2 more years. Um, I mean, even after Blue, so it was almost 3 years difference between Red and Green and Red and Blue in the states. So we would have to wait till September 28th of 1998 in North America. Uh, Australia would also get it in '98 at some point. And then if you lived in Europe, you had to wait till 1999. Can you imagine playing a Game Boy game in 1999, like a freshly released Game Boy game,
I
the
mean, we
last year
didn't.
that the system
Yeah,
exists?
we didn't know any better. We were just like, oh, something new to play on my Game Boy. Great. I had a Game Boy Pocket at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah, I mean, in '99, we're like already. In fact, in October, I'm not 100% sure, but you might have already been able to get a Game Boy Color at this time, which I mean is really is still Game
Oh,
Boy.
you
But
definitely could.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just crazy though. In 1999, in Europe, you're still getting a regular game. Like this wasn't even a Game Boy Color game, but just a Game Boy game, released 10 years into the lifespan.
And probably a very poorly translated one
Probably.
because they only had like translations of translations to go on.
Oh yeah,
There's this whole well documented mess about what a disaster that is.
Oh,
bet.
yeah.
It's horrible. So, as most people know, but if there are any uneducated Pokemon fans, this game is developed by Game Freak with Satoshi Tajiri and Junichi Masada at the helm. Two big Pokemon names. Tajiri originally pitched the game to Nintendo back in 1990, but was turned away until Miyamoto, of all people, convinced him that they might have something on their hands there. It always seems like Miyamoto's like handpicking like little, little games out of nowhere and just turns them into things.
Yeah.
But and again, I always bring these things in because it's documented somewhere. But they say the original idea came from the creator's love of bug collecting as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I buy that.
this all sounds like similar stuff to what Miyamoto always says. I was playing outside as a kid, so I want to explore caves.
I mean, you write what you know, right? Like if
exactly, yeah.
and before our generation, kids actually played outside. So,
And at this time, like the Game Boy was, pretty fresh whenever they pitched the idea. It's, crazy how long it took it to come to fruition, but um, they viewed the Game Boy as the perfect pairing because the Game Boy came with the feature which was the link cable that could link two devices together to compete with other players playing multiplayer games. I think you could play Tetris and like some sports games. Like it wasn't like super commonly used, but like it existed. The technology
you could
was
do
there.
super off road.
Yep.
Yeah, there were some games.
So the Game Boy was looked at as like this platform where you could actually trade data between two consoles like pretty regularly and easily. So that was the one they wanted to go with. Which I have to imagine like the limitations that it took to get Pokemon. I imagine it's probably squeezed on there pretty good because it's a pretty good sized game for a Game Boy. Pokemon would be developed by a team fewer than 10 people, or at least the art group was, led by a man named Ken Sugimori. He would design all 151 Pokemon, or at least have the last word on the designs. Like he was the finalized revision of the designs, which is pretty crazy. Can you imagine like 10 people in a room trying to like come up with 151 creatures and like I don't think I could. I mean, after a while, my stuff would just start looking the same, or like I'd be running out of ideas.
That sounds like
You would have gotten to Clef Key a whole lot faster than Game Freak did.
Exactly.
that
Actually,
sounds like
no,
fun to me though. That sounds like a good
Jigglypuff, or
time.
like Dan said earlier, Voltorb, and have like 10 Voltorbs variations. Let's draw a circle. Here's a square one. I don't know.
What if Voltorb was a box?
Yes, I'm not very artistic, so this in my mind, like this is a huge undertaking for 10 people to put together the 151 original ones. The music for the game is composed by Junichi Masada. He utilized 4 sound channels of the Game Boy to create both melodies and sound effects, and the Pokemon cries that you hear when you encounter them, which is pretty. I mean, Pokemon's pretty high end, like for the Game Boy hardware itself. Like it's really pushing all the things, power wise, sound chip wise.
It's not doing a whole lot like graphically, like because the sprites are pretty small, but it pushed the memory really hard because you have this like giant world to run around in, and
it's all one piece,
And there's not a lot of animation necessarily, but there's a lot of art assets.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's 151 unique Pokemon sounds.
Yeah.
So actually there's 151 different sounds, and that's enough. Like, you imagine, and none of them are like just trying to make 151 distinct sounds.
Right? Yeah. Like I can't even. I wouldn't be able to do that right here.
Yeah. I mean, like you get to like number 100, and you're like, God dang it, that sounds kind of close to the first one we did.
I know,
I have to change it up a little bit. And then they also had some issues with the naming convention. They were going to call it Capsule Monsters, but there was an issue with the name, and that's how we would eventually end up with Pocket Monsters. And then I read somewhere where they were already like trying to do a shortened version of Capsule Monsters to make it work through trademark, and it just ended up like not working out. So they went with Capsule Monsters, but then we would get a shortened version for the name of Pokemon over here,
Capimon.
And then that just stuck, because even in Japan, it's not called Pocket Monsters any longer. Like,
that makes sense though.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just, I think there was like a TV show, or there was already something that existed that was Capsule Monsters, but for the reason why they couldn't go with the name. This game went through like a pretty lengthy development cycle. I mean, after all, they pitched the game in 1990. We wouldn't see a finished product until 96. And then also, you got to think about it that when throwing this out, before Pokemon has become what it is today, this is a brand new IP. You don't know what it's going to do. And then you're also throwing it out into a console that's at the very end of its life cycle almost. Like, it's a big risk.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of worried about it. And I'm sure that like Miyamoto, or whatever the team they worked with, Nintendo, was like, no, we got this, like it's going to work. Because I mean, they already had a lot of the stuff lined up, or had to have been thinking about it prior. And then it just blew up, and it was everywhere.
Well, they did a really good job, at least in the United States, with kind of like,
and I don't know, this game like crazy
marketing, but also I don't know how simultaneous all the releases were, but I felt like when Pokemon launched, like it launched. We had the game, the card game, and the anime ready to go for kids to buy, to consume.
I mean, you had 3 years in between the releases of, close, like 2 years and I don't know, like 7 or 8 months between the release in Japan and the release in the US. So there was lots of things going on in the background in Japan, leading up to the US release, that they could just flip a switch and turn it, translate everything into English and bring it over as well.
Yeah. So not that translating into English is that easy, but.
Well, no, but I mean, like all the artwork's there, all the properties there. You're at this point, you're literally just translating, and then eventually it's, it just probably becomes easier as you go with everything already in place.
Right.
So yes, that is the background That's how we get Pokemon. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the story. I pulled this directly from the game's manual, and as I was talking a little bit about it before we got started, it's basically just like a narration of the what happens in the beginning of the game,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of weird for
Yeah.
usually the manual gives you like a summary of like the overall story minus like the ending part that gives everything away, but this one just like I said, it just goes for it. It tells you exactly what happens at the beginning of the game.
Love
And
it.
it says in there that growing up in Pallet Town, you spend a lot of time playing with your next door neighbor, but lately he's become a bully and no longer wants to play with you. He even thinks of you as his rival. After the two of you stopped playing together, you became very interested in Pokemon. One day you decide to go in search of Pokemon, but just as you're leaving Pallet Town, you hear a voice. Hey, don't go into the grass. It's Professor Oak, the famous Pokemon expert. There are wild Pokemon living in there, he says. They could be very dangerous. However, if you possess trained Pokemon, you can let them fight the wild ones. Come to my laboratory and I'll tell you more. Which kind of sounds like, your mom would be, don't follow any but strangers
Yeah.
in the
Sounds a
lab.
lot like come into my van and have an ice cream sandwich.
Professor Oak is nice. I think.
No, it's like, no, you're going to leave. You want to go leave and do Pokemon stuff. Okay, well, if
that's
you're going to
fine.
leave, you're going to be gone for a long time because I know your dad's not around, kiddo.
You're going to need a Pokemon.
Take this, take this, get out of here. Don't come back for a while.
They borrowed this part from Miyamoto. It's too dangerous to go alone. You need a Pokemon. So when you get to the lab, you find your forever friend there too. You're amazed to find that he is the professor's grandson. And Oak says, I have prepared a Pokemon for you. So now that you have a Pokemon, the rest is up to you. So like I said, it pretty much just narrates the beginning, 20 minutes of the game.
He's been your friend forever, but you didn't know that one of the other 4 buildings in town was his grandpa's.
Exactly. This massive town of pallets that's 5 people strong.
They squeezed it in, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Maybe like there's some like weird backstory and like Professor Oak. No one's supposed to know that he's related. Like it's a dangerous situation or something. I don't know. He's under like a police watch or some kind of weird thing.
Protective custody.
Yeah, there we go. But so the story's pretty much. I mean, if you've played a Pokemon game, the story's pretty much stayed the same for the majority of the games. It is kind of weird that you go out as a kid and explore the world like at an early age.
Yeah.
And
there's always like
what
some
everyone
nefarious organization or gang trying to destroy something.
And your mom's just like totally okay with you leaving. She's like, yeah, get out now.
It's like, bye.
It's like as parents, you're just like, man, why can't the real world be like Pokemon? I kick my 8-year-old out so I don't have to watch him anymore.
I mean, as the games progressed, the parents got more concerned. They'd be like, hang on. What time is it? Okay, go.
Yeah. Here, take
now
this,
you can leave.
Potion with you this time.
Is it daylight savings time? Okay, have fun.
If you get hurt, just come back and I'll heal you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole world of Pokemon is just full of weirdness, and I mean that's what makes it so cool as a kid, and because even at the age of 12 or so, when this how old I was when it came out, you're already thinking about like, man, I'd really like to not have rules and just go collect Pokemon all day.
Yeah,
cool.
man.
So, man, it's basically what I was doing anyway, just with my Game Boy. Collect Pokemon all day. Yep, story's pretty basic. So I guess we can go ahead and move on and talk a little bit about the gameplay and just like everything to do with the game at this point. Pokemon's a pretty traditional turn-based RPG for the most part. It's very
kind of baby's first RPG. You only have
kind of,
one
yeah.
character, 1v1 on
Yes.
field at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it definitely adds in like that rock paper scissor element that can kind of add some challenge, but if you have the chart, like you're ready for it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the strategy lies. Like get your type, memorize your type advantages, and curate your team to kind of handle anything, and then you're good to go. Which nobody else, no other NPC in the entire game figures out but you. So I guess that's why you're the best, like no one ever was.
That's right. I mean, the whole game focuses on the monster collecting, but there's really a lot of other stuff going on in the the background of the game. They do definitely pad the story with different things. Like you said, you have Team Rocket in the first generation of games, and they're you're breaking up their organization as a probably like a 12-year-old
beating up Giovanni's Pokemon.
Yeah, storming into the arcade and like wrecking that place.
Yeah. Fighting some criminals, and once you beat up their mice, they're like, yeah, all right.
Yep.
I guess you win.
Yes. Stepped on my rat, all right.
I'll just go turn myself in now.
All right. This is the only way I have to fight you, so.
And their sprites had a whip and everything.
I know.
In Gen 1.
Yeah, they had like weapons and stuff, which is pretty crazy because they lose that pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to depict adults like whipping kids with a whip in your video game.
But when they lose their weapons, they also get kind of apocalypsy with their intentions.
Yeah.
You go from whips and just stealing Pokemon to, I think the world's had a good run, and we're just going to start that over, I think.
Good call.
They do, in like first gen Pokemon, the Team Rocket seems more like a legitimate evil corporation, and like as you get further into the games, like they just get cheesier, and like it's almost like the anime just killed the viewpoint of the gangs or the nefarious organizations later in the games.
Yeah, and the weird thing is too is that there's a lot of great stories, kind of side stories. I mean, the whole Mewtwo angle is like really fascinating, but you don't hear anything about the origins of Mewtwo in the game. That's all exposition in the cartoon, the movie. Yep. So it's just kind of crazy that they sort of kept you on this one path, and sort of didn't really let you veer off too far.
Yeah. Whether it's with a Snorlax in the middle of the street taking a nap, or just a guy who's like, no, you can't go this way yet.
Yeah. You know what? I'm thirsty. Oh, by the way, you can't go this way.
Yeah, I'm thirsty. You need to find me something to drink or I won't let you pass.
It's like, oh, you can't go. I'm too thirsty.
Yes.
So why don't you go find a drink and I'll go this way?
Just so happens there's one town in the whole game where you can get me something. So
you go to the rooftop of this one place to grab me a soda. Another thing too with Pokemon that kind of amazes me is even from the get-go, like just how many types there were. Like it was a pretty good amount of work that had to be put in with the typing chart and having that many. Like,
yeah,
I don't think anybody would have been upset if there would have just been like 4 or 5 types. Like, I don't think it would have been a deal breaker for kids,
Right. There's a couple of types that only have like 3 Pokemon each.
Yep.
Oh,
that seemed like it would have been super easy to just leave behind.
Gen 1, it was literally 3 ghosts.
Yeah.
3 ghosts.
3 ghosts. I think there's only 3 dragons too.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Just the Dragonite line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's like they did a whole lot of work and gave us all these different types, and it goes like for your player base, like this isn't a like I said, this is a bunch of 12-year-olds playing this game. Like, kind of goes underappreciated, I think, early on. Be more appreciated later whenever you have all these different options for taking down gym leaders and things. But And then to kind of stack that, as a kid, I didn't really have this understanding, but how you can do basically double damage if you're using the same move as the type of Pokemon you're using.
Yeah, it's not quite double, but it definitely is a boost.
Or it's
Yeah. I had no idea about stab
yeah,
Mhm.
and stuff like that the first time.
yeah. So Pokemon's kind of like it has a very easy entry level, and you can just hop right in and start playing. But whenever you get competitive with the game, it can be as complicated as you want it to be.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of options. The moves are there's some different ones in there that, like, you as a kid, like, you don't understand what they do probably.
Yeah, there's no.
I
So in Fire, I was playing Fire Red, and you can go and read a description of the move in the
Yes.
menu. Can you do that in the originals?
No.
no,
See, that's what I'm
Not that I
talking about.
remember.
Like, you have to
yeah.
have the guide, and I
Well,
wonder
yeah.
if.
or you try it and you see what happens.
Yeah, but
That's
sometimes nothing
basically as a
happens, and you're
kid.
just like, okay, I guess I'm not using that anymore. When like something like focus energy that boosts your critical hit stat, like
Yeah, as a
that's
kid, you don't
really
even know what critical
useful.
hit is.
Yeah, and like you use that, and then it just says your Pokemon's focused,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, cool. What
Cool.
What's he focused
what
on?
does that
I
do?
guess that's good.
Like, what do you mean? I deleted flamethrower for this focused.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that, as you get further into the games, like, they do a better job. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
they
absolutely.
describe it or you can hit pause or select, and it'll, like, tell you the description or whatever, later.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the original game, there was a lot of
Yeah.
I remember playing as a kid, and some of my friends were like, "Oh, I only use the moves that do damage."
Do damage.
And you know what's cool though, and that may have led to part of its success because it's a game that innately requires community. If you want to catch them all, you have to find somebody who has the other cartridge.
For sure.
And they're going to tell you something cool that you didn't know, and you're going to tell them something cool that they didn't know. And
This sparked playground conversations,
sure,
like 20
big
times more than
time.
any game that I've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
played, I think.
And even stuff that wasn't even true, like, oh, move the van
Yeah.
to catch Mew, or
Definitely.
like,
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous.
You guys heard about Peekaboo yet?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't that turn out to be Marill?
Yeah, that was Meryl. Yeah.
Marill, whatever. Meryl Streep.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Meryl Streep. Flagship for
somebody
gold
made
and silver.
That absolutely made this game like the topic of conversation on the playground for sure.
Yep.
Well,
And it
you
was
always
built
had
in.
that one kid that just remembered all the levels at which Pokemon evolved, and like,
Yeah.
how do you make this one evolve? He's like, oh no, you got to trade that one.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, how do you know this?
Yeah. It's like, what? It's like he just sat and read the guide all night.
That was me. That was probably me back then.
Hey, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
So
I liked the guides, and I like reading guides, but there was no way I was remembering all these things that were in there.
well, there would come a point where my dad would be like, "No, you have got to stop playing your Game Boy." Like,
Okay,
fine, I'll read my guide.
It's the same thing, but I'll do it.
Oh, you want me to read a book? Well,
here we go.
How about
Okay.
this book?
It has words.
And then, as we kind of mentioned earlier, Pokemon's got a pretty good size world to it. It's fairly linear. There's not a whole lot of deviation from where you can go or what you can do.
It's linear, but you weirdly bounce around like a lot.
You do.
There's no one path. You're kind of like, it's linear up through.
It's not a straight line though.
It's linear to Cerulean, and then it's like, oh, go to this underground tunnel, and then do Diglett's Cave. Now you're back where you started. It doesn't really.
It doesn't hold your hand either. Like,
no.
To like, it doesn't tell you like, oh yeah, you need to get Flash, or you're not gonna be able to see what you're doing in this.
If you talk to the right people, it'll tell you, but the game's not gonna throw the answer at you. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like, you don't just walk into the cave and you inherently know what to do. Because you went into a cave before and it wasn't dark, and you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. Who turned the lights out?
Yeah.
So, and and again, it also you can swim, in this game. They give you a bike, and there's all kinds of ways to traverse the the map they give you. You can fish in certain places. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
it has lots of different things that you don't really expect from a Game Boy game.
Yeah.
It was doing a lot of things at once. You had lots of games that specialized in some of these things, and it was just like, well, we're coming in at the end and we're going to do it all.
So good, man.
And like they troll you too, because like you first see the bike shop and you go in there and you're like, what? How am I ever going to get this much money?
Oh, $1 million, please.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we'll just give it to you with this voucher. Yeah, I don't know. The world of Pokemon in Gen 1 is like, they do a very good job with like the telling of it and its layout, and like everything just seems, it flows naturally as you're going through it. It like feels like it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Except for the guy standing in your way that wants a drink. Like there are some
You know
things,
what?
but
I got to tell a quick story real quick. So in the original Red, Blue, Yellow, what do you use to give the guy to let him pass? What do you do? Do you remember the thirsty guy? What do you give him?
Oh, yeah.
he wants a.
I don't think it's one of the ones in the vending machine. I don't
Yes,
think
it is. In Red and Blue,
it is.
it's the
water,
vending
though,
machine,
isn't it?
Yeah, you can give him water. It doesn't matter. You can give him any of the drinks in the vending machine. Just
Any of the
walk
drinks.
by him, and he'll be like, "Is that water? Can I have that? Thanks. You can go now."
Oh yeah, because he's behind a counter the whole
Yeah.
time.
He'll stop you.
He just won't let
Now-
you pass.
There was a problem with that because there was a way where you could get stuck and never progress in the game if you had no money and you fought all the trainers in that area up to that point, and there was
'cause you can't buy the
no
water.
other way to get money. You're stuck. You'll never
That's
get out.
right.
So for Fire Red, you don't give him a drink from something from the vending machine. You talk to one of the ladies in the house who makes tea, and you give them tea. I didn't know this. I'm thinking in my head playing Fire Red, like I'm going to go give him a drink from the vending machine. And I literally reached out on Twitter and I was like, please, somebody help me. This guard will not take my water. What is happening? And then somebody was like,
He
"Oh,
keeps
you gotta
telling me he's
go
thirsty.
here."
He refuses my drinks.
Man, I was
It's
so
like, at the very
mad.
least, it could have been both.
Yeah, I seriously, that's what I was thinking. Like, make it both to make it easy for us veterans, you know? But
Yeah. Well, no, they want to relearn you.
it was really frustrating. I was not happy about that at all. And there's really no way for the game to tell you that. It's just kind of like, I'm thirsty. Not, a nice, hot, cozy drink would be nice. Maybe from this lady who lives here. Nope. Just, I'm thirsty.
Nope.
I
So
only
that
want
was
a
a thing.
particular type of tea that comes from one place.
Yep. But I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Yeah,
Sounds
as a
like
kid,
my wife. Nyuk, 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 nyuk,
As a
nyuk.
kid, you're playing this game and you're like, this is funny because, I ask for all these things and my mom tells me you're just going to drink what I give you.
Yeah.
Where's the option to tell him too bad
Yeah. Just run.
or me too?
Yeah.
So, strewn out along the world here, there's the gyms that allow you to progress and allow you to catch more Pokemon and let your Pokemon be a higher level and you still be able to control them, which is really funny when you don't understand what's going on with that. Like my cousin didn't understand that he had trained his Pokemon to too high of a level, and he's like, man, he just does whatever he wants. And I was like, yeah, it's because you don't have the badges, man. You got to get the badges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He was like that kid that wouldn't catch any other Pokemon, and like he just had a Blastoise that was like level 80 very early in the game. I was like, no, you got to like spread it out, man. You got to catch some more Pokemon.
Well, but that's kind of cool how, they're not going to stop you from getting a level 80 Blastoise. Like, you can do that.
Right.
The game's open enough for that, but maybe there's some consequences.
Yeah, and they're like, he used Headbutt and he hurt himself. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How did he headbutt himself? Yes, the gyms. So did you guys have a favorite gym in the first game? Or a favorite gym leader? Like, did you prefer any of the ones over the others?
Not. I don't know that they gave me that much character in the games for me to like.
Or
have
even
a favorite.
the challenges that you had to do to reach. Because like later in
I
the
have a
game,
least favorite.
Okay, what's your least favorite?
So I think it's the psychic gym where it's like the rooms you teleport through. Like
Yes.
that gym can go die. I would never. It's just there's no rhyme or reason to it, and I hate it.
there's
Yeah.
no rhyme
Most
or
of the
reason for
gyms,
the Lieutenant Surge's gym either, though.
Yeah, where you look for switches and
Yes.
trash cans. But like most of them are fairly straightforward. I think those are the only two that like spring to mind. I'm not saying there's the only two, but they're the only two that I remember is the teleporting in Sabrina's gym and the trash cans in Lieutenant Surge.
Because they were the worst.
I was like,
Yeah.
wanna
why do you
fight
have
you.
why do you have door switches inside trash cans?
That move. How do they move? I want to know.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Resets.
And you go in and it's just a grid of trash cans. You're like, what are you
This
doing
guy's got
in
a
here,
lot of
sir?
trash.
Yeah,
Breeding.
it's like this guy really cares about
He's
cleanliness.
breeding garbadars.
Yes. It's like
He's
Alien.
like, eventually, I'm going to shock one of these trash
Yeah.
cans hard enough, it's going to come
We're
to
gonna
life.
do it.
It's like in Prometheus when they walk in on those vials. He just has trash cans full of Garbodor in there.
Lieutenant Surge, I think, is the only one that I don't know. I think he's probably my favorite, both because it's got a puzzle. It's not a super ridiculous or hard to execute puzzle, and he also had a Raichu, and I really liked Raichu.
Mhm.
Thought Raichu was really
That was
cool.
cool.
Raichu is way cooler than
Did
Pikachu.
he give you Thunder Wave?
Absolutely.
He gives you Thunder Wave, I
Yeah.
believe.
The TM, which is pretty useful, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gyms are pretty cool. I always liked the very. I think it wasn't the last gym, the 7th gym, the fire gym with Blaine.
Yeah, Blaine.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of a cool, like the just fire types and stuff. There's not very many fire types in the game.
Yeah, that's kind of common with a lot of Pokemon games where I mean the ocean is full of water types and the grass is full of grass types. Where do the fire types live? In the single volcano on your map? Like,
well, in of all of the fire types, I mean, with the few that are available, 2 of them are limited to one game.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Actually, 3 of them, because you either have Growlithe or Vulpix, depending on what you're playing. And then Magmar is also strictly on the red version, I believe.
yeah, Magmar and then Electabuzz.
Electabuzz was the trade there.
Vice versa.
Scyther?
Magmar is on the blue version, I believe, and Electabuzz is on the red version.
That's right. Yeah.
So
so that's pretty limited. Yeah.
Moltres locked behind the version you have. So basically, you basically have like Ponyta.
Yeah, Ponyta
And Flareon and Moltres.
Yeah, you could have a Flareon.
That's true. Yeah, you could do Flareon too.
You would not. Yeah, you can't have Moltres until like the very end.
Well, but that's not crazy. That's not like no Pokemon.
Well, no, that's
I caught a Growlithe on my most recent playthrough pretty early on and was happy with it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, you don't have
Arcanine has a really high. Arcanine has good stats too, so it's not like you're missing out.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, Arcanine's way better than Ninetales stats wise.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're playing the blue version, you're pretty much screwed on your fire Pokemon until you get Moltres, because even Flareon's not great stat wise.
Yeah. And I guess fire has a lot of. Fire does have a good number of weak to fire. So, but I guess later in the game that's not so much a problem. Is ice weak to fire?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess that
it is,
helpful.
but it barely comes up in Gen 1. You've got
an entire
Lorelei in the Elite Four, and that's it.
But that's why you need it. You do that, or what else even would you?
I mean, I guess I am.
I mean, I feel like most of the ice are ice water too,
yeah.
so you could shock them through.
Yeah, that's true.
Like electric types or something.
True
I
that.
guess I'm missing Charizard. Like you could start with the best fire type.
I know, but
Yeah.
I've played this
fire
game
type.
probably 6 times now, and I've definitely done all 3. And Charmander is harder to start with because you start with your first gyms are rock,
Rock and
and
water.
water. So you're kind of like, what do I do with my Charmander?
Yeah,
With a cave full of Geodudes between the two.
Yeah, where
exactly.
you go with I always went grass and like you just sweep the first couple of gyms.
Either one of the other Pokemon will be just fine, but
Yeah.
And then but then it's kind of funny because it flips. Then you get to Surge and you're like, oh, if I have Bulbasaur, I'm kind of screwed.
No, it's just the Squirtle is screwed.
Yeah.
Or
Bulbasaur would be
Squirtle. I
fine.
mean Squirtle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all knew what I meant. So
That's what I said. I think grass is meant to be easy mode, but I don't know.
I think water's water. Yeah. Well, grass has they're pretty well balanced actually, because grass.
Yeah, grass you wouldn't really have a hard time until Blaine.
Until Blaine.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, grass has the fewest number of types that's like weak against it in the game of the 3 starters.
Yeah.
Which was pointed out to me recently on Twitter because I like grass types.
Oh, okay.
But you get a lot more variety in your moveset with grass.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I am always kind of upset too that like the very beginning of the game is just stocked with normal Pokemon for the most part. Like you don't get very much flavor at the beginning. You just get regular.
No.
Yeah, and not to go off too much, but in my recent playthrough of Sapphire, I'm really just loving all the variety you get early on. Like I've got like a Lotad and Aaron, the steel type, and we've got Wingull, which is like water flying, which is super useful, like super early on. So there's a lot of variety.
Technically, you can catch Pikachu in the forest at the beginning, but
yeah, I mean you're not wrong about Red Blue, but they fixed that in Sapphire for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you complete all the gyms and get all the badges, this allows you to waltz down Victory Road and go fight the Elite Four.
And Gary.
And Gary.
The Elite Five.
Gary's the pest that you always come across through the whole game.
My most recent bout through the Elite Four plus Gary, I will say, yeah, the Elite Five, the Elite Four, Gary and the Four. I will say that battle is like when you finally get through like the first trainer, you're like, yes, okay, and then like you just immediately wiped off the face of the earth, and you're like, okay, got to keep going.
The gap between the last gym and the Elite Four, there's like huge. A 20 level gap. So
it's huge, man. I mean, that cave on Victory Road is stacked with some like 30, 40 level Pokemon. So it's pretty easy to level up. But
you got to do some grinding.
It still takes some grinding, especially if you have a Pokemon that you need for one trainer in the 4, and it's just not doing it for you.
Yeah, I definitely at some point I figured out, or I guess I made my plan that I would just fight the Elite Four over and over again. However many I beat is how many I beat. I immediately buy all of the potions I can and go back just to slowly build up this medicine reserve so that my little kid ass could get through.
You can use the Elite Four to grind as well.
That's true. Yeah, later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As long as you can beat one.
Yep.
I'm going to try to find the picture of my winning team here.
Well, I asked Will if he remembered the very first team of Pokemon that he used to defeat the Elite Four.
No, there's no way I remember that.
I can probably pull a few, like 3, maybe 4 of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I did go with Charizard at the beginning. And then I kept the Lapras with me that you get at one point. So I had the Lapras and Hitmonchan. I went with Hitmonchan instead of Hitmonlee. And I had a Jolteon, which was, in hindsight, a mistake. I do not remember
mediocre Pokemon.
the other two who were more mediocre than Jolteon. I don't remember them.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem with.
There was a bird in there, probably. There's probably a Pidgeot in there because I was flying somewhere somehow.
Yeah, you have to
Could have
fly.
been a
Yeah.
legendary. You didn't have a legendary bird?
Oh no, he had Charizard.
Charizard
Then you have
can't
to
fly.
waste.
I probably.
I thought Charizard could fly.
No.
I thought he could learn fly.
I don't think he can in Red Blue.
Gyarados can learn fly.
Yeah, I don't think he can in
Which
Red
doesn't
Blue.
make any sense. So my most recent winning
water
team with
flying.
Fire Red, it consisted of Arcanine, Hypno, Raichu,
Okay.
Aerodactyl, Vileplume, who I kept the entire game,
Oh
Okay.
gosh.
and Blastoise.
I had a Haunter. I had a Haunter because I
Vileplume,
really like that line.
Haunter is really great. Haunter and Gengar I had in my original winning Elite Four when I was a kid. Vileplume was my HM vehicle.
Oh yeah.
But she also had Solar Beam, so I would throw her out just for Solar Beam and then like pull her back. Yeah, but she did her job well.
She was definitely a better Pokemon than Bellsprout.
This was my first time.
Bell.
This was my first time using Aerodactyl in any capacity.
I always had
Okay.
Aerodactyl as my.
Well, because I usually do Articuno because he's my favorite Pokemon, and this time around I was like, I want to mix it up a bit.
I know for sure I had a Venusaur because that's what I picked to start, and then I either would have had a Golem or a Aerodactyl, depending on what I went with. And then I for sure would have had Alakazam because, like, come on, gotta have Alakazam.
I was actually really pleased with Hypno. His based HP stat, he was alive for a long time in those battles.
Yeah, he's like the opposite. He's more of a tank, but he just doesn't hit as hard. Alakazam is very fragile, but
his biggest hit was like Dream Eater, which like barely did anything, but it healed you. So I only used him for type advantage or for tanking up, but he was pretty useful because I didn't use Snorlax or anything like that.
I remember early on trying to use Gyarados because he looks cool, and you don't realize that he's stupid. Weak
No
to
way!
everything.
Gyarados is awesome.
He's 4 times weak to lightning, man, or electric.
It's like until you come across anything that like walked too heavily on a carpet.
A level 5 Pikachu annihilates him.
Yeah. I mean that's true, but I mean his attack stats crazy. He's got some good
keeping
HP.
him alive is challenging.
Yeah, that's true.
Because like you even have like just randomly like I think one of the Elite Four has like Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee, and like you're not.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Somebody has them, and like they'll use like Thunder Punch, and like you're just not expecting.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they do.
It's the fighting.
The second one. The second one. Yeah, he's got like rocks and fighting. He's got some Onyxes.
I'm just gonna pull up my.
It's like Bruno or something.
Yeah, something I don't remember, but I just remember like.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Not expecting it, and they're like, "Oh, Thunder Punch," and I'm like, "Dang it, Gyarados, come on!"
All right, my current team in this cartridge of Blue, which is a Pokemon game I stopped, is Gyarados, Charmeleon, Weepinbell, Dragonair, Kadabra, and Haunter.
Yeah, Weepinbell is the proper name because that Pokemon's sad.
It's kind of a weak team. I might drop Gyarados and Weepinbell, and I can't have Kadabra and Haunter, so I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing in that game of Blue.
You're just having fun, man. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So yes, after you beat the Elite Four, you can basically do whatever you want. You can go back and get any legendary Pokemon that you missed out on. You can get Mewtwo. I guess technically you can get Mewtwo. Can you get Mewtwo beforehand?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
He's afterwards, and he's in the cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you're a fool like my cousin and use the Master Ball to get one of the birds.
Nope, don't do it.
And then and then you're like, oh, I can't catch Mewtwo now.
No. Mewtwo, like you You
Oh, it's
You
technically
super
can,
hard.
but it's gonna hurt.
You're
Oh,
gonna go
yeah.
through a lot of Ultra Balls. You're gonna spend tons of money on that guy.
I just remember like I had him and he's like, "How'd you catch him?" I was like, "I used the Master Ball." it's like why? Oh man. And then I guess
Because like even if you squeeze out, like just eke out a win against the Elite Four featuring Gary, like Mewtwo could still be higher than that. Like, I think it was like 70 or
Yeah, I
something. It
think
was
he is,
ridiculous. Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And then you could do the stupid, exploit the game to get Mew or missing no.
Missing No is the one you can do
Yeah.
that. And Mew is a lot more complicated, and you have to do it before that point, I think.
Yeah,
Is it an exploit or is it a program in the game
Which one?
to catch Mew? Is it
Mew?
a glitch?
I think it's an exploit. Like it is a glitch. It's a very specific set of instructions that you can pull off in Red, Blue, Yellow. It involves the trainers on the Nugget Bridge that
Yep.
goes from Cerulean City to Bill's
Mm-hmm.
house. So if you've already cleared all those fights, you can't do it anymore.
That's right.
How did you get
And
Mew?
we
then?
certainly didn't have access to it at the time.
No, it was later that you found out.
Yeah, that
about
was
it.
later that they figured that out. Mew was just giveaways, I think, officially, or Game Shark.
Yeah, that's right.
Toys
It
R Us
was.
was involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
or Game Shark. Yeah.
Yeah,
or Game Shark.
yeah, Game Shark will do it too.
I guess
Missing No with the item duplication glitch.
I did that,
Now that-
man. I did that
did that a
all the
lot, too.
time.
rare candies.
Mhm.
Up all your stats.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's basically Pokemon in a nutshell, gameplay wise. We can do a quick pit stop and talk about the music if you guys want to. There's definitely some good tracks. Like this is one where like I can just sit and listen to the music on it, which is really rare for a Game Boy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy how memorable all those tracks were.
Oh yeah.
The Poke Center song and the battle song, and every town has their own theme song, and as soon as it strikes up, you're just right back there, man. It's pretty crazy.
It's kind of funny. My infant has a little Game Boy Fisher Price toy, or whatever brand it is, and it has music that is supposed to sound like certain games. So like there's a little track on there that kind of sounds like Legend of Zelda. There's one that sounds like Pokemon. There's one that sounds like Kirby.
Gosh.
And he like it looks like a Game Boy, and you push the game and it changes the song that it plays. Well, he was playing with that, and you get mad and frustrated because it doesn't last very long, and he would like throw it and like get mad. So I found the playlist for the Pokemon Blue on YouTube, and I just started playing the track list from there, and like he loves it. Like he'll sit there and listen to it
Love it.
forever. I just put
That's
on loop
great.
and let him listen to it.
Yeah, that's great.
But it's all because of that toy. It had a track on there that's similar, and then he just like puts it together. I mean, music is amazing. Like kids just get it,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of very memorable tracks. Like anybody that's played these games for any amount of time as a kid, even however far displaced you are from the game today, if you played one of those tracks, somebody would probably instantly know what it is if they've played the game. And a lot of that's due to just like those tracks being played over and over again in certain aspects, certain parts of the game. But especially the battle music, same battle music throughout the whole game. So
Yes.
you definitely get it burned in like really quickly.
So good.
I did pull some fun facts about this game. There wasn't a whole lot, but definitely some interesting ones. I definitely didn't know any of these things. The Rhydon was the first Pokemon ever designed. He's not number one in the Pokedex or anything, but he was the very first one that was drawn.
Rhydon, not even Rhyhorn?
Yep, not even Rhyhorn. Rhydon.
I mean, okay, he ended up being an evolution too, so that's cool. They were like, he's too big. Let's make a smaller one.
And then I also didn't know that all the statues in the gyms are Rhydon, which gets talked about in this next thing.
Yeah.
There's a bug in the game that allows you to fish inside of the statues, which is something I did not know as a kid.
What do you catch? Rhydon?
Magikarps. Yeah, nothing good. Magikarps. Just like you can fish in the Carulian gym as well. The swimming pool, there's fish in there for some reason. And then the last one is Professor Oak's Nidorino at the beginning of the game. Like when you start it up and you let it play through the intro.
Yeah.
And he is, where it's like the world of Pokemon. And then
Yeah.
And then his Nidorino does a cry.
Yeah.
And the cry belongs to the female version, the Nidorina. they
Come
messed
on,
up
guys.
programming. It's like,
get it
you guys
together.
had one job, one intro.
Who's in charge of sound effects?
Which again was, when I was a kid, I wasn't. Even today, I don't pay attention to the cries. Like I couldn't tell you which ones are which.
No,
yeah.
I could never tell you. If that was a quiz, I'd be like, nah, I'll just fail. No thanks.
Exactly. Man, I don't know that I could tell you a single. Like maybe we'll do that on Retrologic sometime. We'll do the Pokemon Cry quiz and see.
No, I'm going to fail every single. I don't even.
No. We can run it. We'll get it. We'll have the guests do the test.
Okay. That's actually really good because that'd be hard to like Google. How do you look that up? Hey Google, what sound is this?
Oh man, that will be a fun one. We'll have to do that sometime. All right, that's pretty much been Pokemon. We'll go ahead and start the outro, and I'll give you guys a chance to say your finals for Pokemon, and then maybe promote some content if you want. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to say that due to some issues with Zencast recording, I lost the outro to this episode. But I can cover the easy stuff on where you can find these fine gentlemen that join me tonight. Will, you can find him anywhere you can hear or listen to Megadads. He's a big part of that show, as well as on Twitter at Wondrous Will. And of course, Dan, the host with the most from the Retrologic podcast. You can also find him at retrologic.games on Twitter. And yeah, just those guys did an awesome job tonight with the show. We just lost the outro, so they didn't get a chance to promote themselves. And it got kind of cut short at the end due to that. So I'll go ahead and take this time to announce that the next episode's game will be Comic Zone. This is the Retro Rewind game that everyone chose for the month of October in the community. There's still a little bit of time left to play it if you haven't played it yet, and want to join the recording for that as well if you feel. But that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and close this one out. Thanks for listening to On Topic Retro, a part of the Retrologic family of podcasts. If you'd like to send in your personal experiences for the next show, but don't have Discord, you can send them to ontopicretro@gmail.com. If you haven't joined the wonderful non-toxic Retrologic Discord and would like to, you can visit retrologic.games for details on how to join for free. That's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next. We'll hope for no more complications recording-wise. Hopefully the next one will be a little cleaner at the end. But we'll see you guys for it, and bye now.
Search across the land, far and wide. Release from my hand the power that's inside. Venomoth, Poliwag, Nidorina, Golduck, Ivysaur, Grimer, Victreebel, Moltres. Did I already do that part? See, the problem is they all get like blended together in your head.
The problem is I don't know the song.